Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's program, Winning Recognition, Strategically Positioning Yourself for Industry Awards and Rankings. I'm Ala Policastro, Director of Education and Professional Development at Beverly Hills Bar Association. And today I'm delighted to introduce and welcome back our speaker and former member of the Advisory Board of the Beverly Hills Bar Foundation and former member of BHBA's Marketing Committee, Jonathan Fitzgerald. Jonathan is a strategist with more than 25 years of experience advising legal professionals on practice growth, client development, and business positioning. For 16 of those years, he served as the chief architect of client development at three prominent business law firms where he designed and implemented firm-wide growth strategies. A fellow of the College of Law Practice Management, Jonathan delivers keynote presentations, facilitates retreats, and leads programs on topics including thought leadership, pipeline development, persuasive communication, and market visibility. We highly encourage everyone to submit their questions throughout the program by typing them into the Q&A box, and Jonathan will endeavor to answer them throughout the program and potentially at the end. And now I'm going to turn it over to him.
Yeah, thank you, Ala. It's nice to be with everybody this afternoon. To begin our conversation today, I'm going to be posing a bunch of different questions. So if you'd like to interact and give us your thoughts and advice on the various topics, find the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and be ready to answer some of these questions so that we can get some of your feedback as we get started. So to get our discussion started, I want to start with a question that may seem a little uncomfortable. True or false? Here we go here. True or false? The best lawyer, I'm talking about the smartest, the most experienced, the best pedigreed lawyer is the one who most often wins industry awards and recognitions. And I'll pause for just a second to see what you have to say in the Q&A. Okay, for most of us, if you said, Jonathan, that's totally false, that is not generally how these kinds of things work, you would be correct. What I always tell my lawyer clients is it's not necessarily the best lawyer that gets the nod. It's the one who positions themselves the best with their experience, with the kind of work and successes that they've had on behalf of clients that usually gets the nod. So the second question that I have for you is, how many of you have seen someone ranked, been an award recipient, and you've thought to yourself, I know lawyers way better than that person. How in the heck did they get the nod and someone else didn't? Again, if you want to share your thoughts in the Q&A, please do so now. If I had a quarter for every time one of my clients have complained that one of their competitors got the nod in one of these awards and recognitions and they didn't, we probably wouldn't be talking today. I'd probably be in the British Virgin Islands somewhere, relaxing with an adult beverage. But alas, we are here. And that kind of dynamic happens all the time. I know because I get this feedback. So one of the reasons we're talking about these awards and recognitions and how to position yourself properly is because ultimately I want you to get credit for the great work that you're doing. And whether you're at a big firm or you're a solo practitioner, in my opinion, for most of these awards and recognitions, the playing field is absolutely leveled. It doesn't matter if you're a solo. It doesn't matter if you're at an AmLaw 50 firm. The rules are still the same. The AmLaw 50 firm may be a little better known than you or your firm, but at the end of the day, it's your experience and how you position it for each of these opportunities that's really going to make a difference. Next question that I have for the Q&A is, how many of you on the Zoom today have been awarded with some kind of award or recognition? Could be super lawyers, could be best lawyers, could be something that the Business Journal, the Daily Journal, Law 360 puts out. But I'd be interested to know how many of you have received one of those industry awards. Let's call it within the last 5 years. And the next question is for those of you that have, do you know how the sausage was made? Do you know why you specifically were chosen over, in some cases, the hundreds of other lawyers that also were nominated for a very small number of awards? Uh, the answer to that is probably no, not entirely understanding how this is done, which is why we're on the call today. So, these are some of the specific awards and recognitions that we're going to be reviewing at some point during our time together today. The other thing that I want to mention is oftentimes I will hear from clients that these awards and recognitions are essentially empty, it's all vanity, and they, in essence, don't need the ego boost. And I'm hoping that by the time we're finished today, I'm able to change your perspective a little bit on that. Um, these awards absolutely could be seen as kind of a vanity plate, but I believe as a client development coach and trainer for lawyers, there's a great way to leverage them for new opportunities, to strengthen relationships with current clients, to foster relationships with new prospects who hopefully turn into clients, even for referral sources that are out there in the business community. There are strategies for making sure that having your name in the general stream of conversation in the business community on a regular basis can only help to keep you top of mind. And that's what I want to share. That's part of what I want to share with you today. So let's get into that part of it. Let's talk about some of the benefits of this. And the first one that I want to mention is credibility. And I want to display credibility by showing you this next slide. Let's assume, for purposes of our conversation today, that I'm a prospective client. I have a pending legal need that needs overcome if my business is going to continue. I'm now in the market for an outside practicing lawyer, and I've been given two names. And you can drop this into the Q&A too. What is reasonably the first thing as a prospective client that I'm going to do with the two names that someone has given me? If you say that I'm going to take those two names and throw them into Google to see what Google knows about those two individuals, you're absolutely right. For most of us, what will result from that Google search is an attorney's bio. We will land on their website. We will navigate over to the attorney's bio. And here are two bio examples. The one on the left, John Smith, could be a very bright guy. As you can see from the PowerPoint today, the information that is provided on John is about as lean as it can be. On the other hand, the second resume, also named John Smith, is much more comprehensive. You'll notice that there are awards and honors that are listed in this second version: professional affiliations, public speaking engagements that John has had, publications where he has written for different publications. From a credibility perspective alone, folks, when a prospective client looks and compares these two attorneys, sheer optics alone, and from a human perspective, it's very likely that this second John Smith is the one that is going to get the nod and going to get that first call or that first email. So, from a credibility perspective, making sure that your website bio is as comprehensive and complete as possible. And part of that can be through awards and recognitions by a third party organization saying, John Smith is excellent for real estate transactions or for business transactions or for whatever it is that John does. So, credibility is definitely one of the benefits of why you would want to go to the extent to the time, in some cases to the expense of pursuing these third-party rankings. A second reason is visibility. And as I mentioned, for most of us on the call today, unless you're an early career attorney within the first couple years of your practice, from a client development perspective, the overwhelming challenge for most of us on the call is how do we stay visible in front of that target market that could hire us or refer us, particularly when that target market has the need. And not everybody has the need for what we do 24 hours a day. So, how do we go about staying visible enough that when there is a need, we get a call or an email, but not so visible that someone sees something from us and they're like, okay, enough already. I get it. You're everywhere. Sometimes or oftentimes people will overshare on LinkedIn, or I'll get what seems like tons of spam emails, law firm newsletters or attorney newsletters. And if it is too frequent, I can't help but think to myself, does this person have anything to do? They seem to be spending all of their time in all of this promotional activity, and I wonder how much of their day they're actually spending practicing law. So there is a fine balance, folks, and that dynamic is not lost with me. But from a visibility perspective, it's probably one of our largest challenges. And by participating in some of these awards and recognition opportunities, these third-party directories, it allows us, particularly when we receive the nod, it allows us to promote that award and recognition to our target market over LinkedIn. Maybe it's even significant enough that we shoot out individual emails to certain contacts in our database so that they know that we have received this visibility. And oftentimes it reaffirms what they already know about us. Another reason that you may participate in these third-party directories is to continue to gain or to foster the confidence of those whom you already serve. I had a situation once where there is an annual award that goes out to everybody in the bar. I'm not going to mention it. I think the award is legitimate. Some people don't. But every time it comes time during the year to verify your data to make sure that you're eligible to receive the nod, I would send an email out to my clients saying, hey, folks, don't forget to verify your data. I want to make sure that if this award and recognition is important to you, you do this final step so that you are considered. One of the attorneys on the management committee of one of my clients every single year would respond to my email, and she was absolutely livid. Jonathan, why are you sending out this email? This is a waste of time. This award and recognition has absolutely no substance. I don't know why you're spending your time doing this, and our attorneys are wasting their time by following your instructions. And every time I would say, okay, I understand. You have other attorneys in your firm, though, that are interested, and I'm also trying to serve them. But every time I would get this correspondence from this attorney. The last year was very different. I still sent out my information, but I ended up getting a phone call a couple weeks later from this attorney, and here's what she said. She said, over the weekend, I got a text message from a really good client of mine. This client gives me more than $1 million worth of work a year. It's a very good client. He was sitting at home drinking a cup of coffee at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, and Los Angeles Magazine shows up on his doorstep, and he opens up and he sees this specific supplement, and the supplement rates attorneys by practice area, and he thumbs over to the land use zoning section of this publication, and he did not see my name there. And he sent me a text message saying, I really like you as my attorney. I think you're really great. I think you're super. But why doesn't this publication think that you're very super? Now, my attorney kind of laughed it off, and both she and the client in the moment on a Sunday morning kind of laughed it off. But it made such an impression upon her. She essentially came back to me and said, Jonathan, it doesn't really matter what we as attorneys think of these awards and recognitions. It really matters the perception of what our clients think and what our referral sources think. That's what we have to manage in this process. And I believe that she's right. We may think that some of these awards and recognitions that come across your desk on a regular basis, and I'm sure it's daily, my clients forward those correspondence to me every single day. And so I know when you're getting them. I know they may not seem totally top shelf, but if we can remember, clients, referral sources, prospective clients may not understand or know whether these opportunities are legit or not. And when they're sitting at their home on a Sunday morning and they open up a legitimate publication and they either see you there, it confirms the confidence they have in you. If they don't see you there, then it makes them question, is my attorney really as good as I think she is, particularly at 6, 7, 8, 900 bucks an hour? What we don't want from a client development perspective is red flags going up in the minds of our clients or our prospects or our referral sources. Now, I say that fully knowing that there are some award and recognition opportunities that come across your email that, in my opinion, are not legitimate. Some are, we will discuss them today, some are not. And so, as we speak today, I'm not suggesting that every single thing that comes across your desk is something worth pursuing, but I want you to also realize that we're essentially trying to manage the perception of how others view us. And I believe a tremendous benefit of these awards and recognitions is building, fostering, continuing that confidence that clients already have in us. The next benefit in my mind is referral opportunities. I've heard my clients tell me a million times they received a new opportunity, they were conflicted out of the opportunity, and they were trying to think who would be best to refer that to. They didn't want to leave their contact high and dry. And so oftentimes, practicing attorneys will look at some of these third party rankings, these third party directories, to decide who they're going to send their client or contact to. And so there may be a reason why you want to participate in some of these in the hopes of getting referrals. And then this last one I think is super important, particularly if you have early career attorneys that work under you. There aren't very many times during the course of a legal practice where we get a ton of attaboys and a ton of attagirls. Let's face it. Maybe at the end of a transaction, the end of a major case, the client may say, hey, Jerry, nice job, until the client gets your final bill. And then even if you killed it for this client, it still doesn't feel good writing a check for that total amount. But at the end of the day, there aren't a whole lot of attaboys out there that we receive. If you want to keep younger professionals that you work with at your firm motivated and loyal to the platform, look for opportunities to build their morale by perhaps participating in some of the awards and recognitions that are out there for younger professionals. And they're there. Lots of organizations have them. And your younger professionals do not have to be the lead on a matter or on a case for them to be considered. They can be a member of a team that successfully handled something on behalf of the client, and that's enough in order for them to be considered for some of these awards and recognitions. So if there are any questions about some of the benefits, perhaps you've never looked at it from this perspective before, and I just want to make sure that you're considering all of these when you're deciding, is this something that I want to pursue, or is this something that I'm going to forego? Okay, enough about benefits. Let's now talk about what makes you best positioned to receive a nod when being nominated for any of these awards. If you'll throw into the chat what you believe to be the most important determinator of whether or not you're eligible to receive an award, I'd like to see what you have to say. So, in other words, why does one person become a nominee and another person gets overlooked altogether. Any thoughts about that as you wonder how all of this black magic happens? The ultimate answer to my question, folks, is representative matters. And you may not have perceived representative matters like this before now. From a client development perspective, I'm constantly hounding my clients. Make sure that you have an updated list of representative matters easily accessible on your website bio, on your LinkedIn profile. In 2026 and beyond, no one wants to take a risk on you, particularly at five, six, seven, eight, $900 an hour. So when prospects are vetting you and they do throw your name into Google, like we mentioned before, when they land on your LinkedIn or when they land on your website bio, the section that should be in neon, that cannot be missed, is a section of your representative matters. Are those representative matters generally about 24 months old? Are they descriptive of the value that you provided to the client? In other words, are you approaching it from the client's benefit, not necessarily from your benefit? Are they fairly brief? One or two sentences, absolutely sufficient. If the matter that you handled is confidential, obviously, I'm not going to suggest that you divulge anything that is client confidential, but perhaps there's a way of describing what you did that does not out the client. Successfully represented a mid-sized apparel company based in Los Angeles in its acquisition of fill in the blank. I haven't given the apparel company's name out. There are hundreds of apparel companies in downtown Los Angeles. The chances that someone's going to figure it out or even go to the effort of playing Inspector Gadget is just not very realistic. And yet you're getting the credit for handling the work and adding that value on behalf of the client. So, to recap, if you want to know the single most important thing in determining whether you get the nod or not, it's the great work that you've done on behalf of clients, but you've got to be able to position that work in a way that someone at the directory or the media outlet who is reviewing these nominations can understand the value that you provided. If it's in a bunch of legalese, it may go over someone's head. Understand that for most of these awards and recognitions, there are hundreds or thousands of nominations that get submitted. And in some cases, there's only 25 or 30 attorneys that eventually get the nod. So imagine a conference room at the Daily Journal or the Business Journal or the LA Times or Law 360, where it's 6 o'clock in the afternoon. There's a bunch of journalists sitting around a conference table. Everyone's got their glass of Chardonnay. This is after hours, after they've had a full day's of work. All of them have been assigned a stack of nominations, and they're spending 3 or 4 seconds each trying to narrow 1,000 nominations down to 25 or 30. Whatever information you provide on your nomination has got to be punchy. It's got to be eye-catching. It's got to be positioned in a way where someone in a very short amount of time, whether they're super sophisticated or not, can get to the essence of what you did on behalf of a client. And that takes a little bit of skill, folks. If you don't feel like you have that skill in order to position yourself accordingly, then find someone else at the firm, find a friend, hire a consultant to help you with that. But make sure that you're positioning yourself and you're communicating these matters in a way where someone on the other end immediately gets it and your nomination gets put in that small pile of people to seriously consider. That's where I want your nomination to be. Representative matters have to be fairly recent. If there was something you did 40 years ago, it's probably no longer eligible for a current award. And if your practice is such that it varies across different industries or for different types of clients, then it may be appropriate in your nomination and definitely on your website bio to categorize some of these representative matters so that, maybe you've got some real estate experience. So you list real estate as a category, 3 or 4 bullets of work that you've handled. Corporate, land use, environmental. If it's litigation, maybe it's litigation in the AI space and you've got decent experience there. So you've got 2 or 3 representative matters within that category. But please, if there's one thing that I can leave with you today, make sure your representative matters are up to date and easy to read and easy for those in the business community to find. If you don't list representative matters today on your website bio or on LinkedIn, it's okay. I'm not going to police you, but I guarantee you're losing out on opportunities. Now, maybe there's such a tidal wave of opportunities hitting you up every single day that to lose a few is no big deal. For most of my clients, none of them want to lose even one opportunity. So we do everything we can to set them up for success. And that includes making sure their representative matters are clear, concise, and up to date for these award and recognition opportunities. The other thing that is secondary to your experience is your extracurricular activities. A lot of these publications want to know that you have a life outside of practicing law. Maybe it's serving on a charity board. Maybe you coach your son's little league team. It almost doesn't matter what you do outside of practicing law, but you should include those and fold those in to the nomination so that these different publications can see that you've got a life outside of the office. It can even be roles that you serve within your firm. If your firm has a diversity committee, if your firm has a mentorship committee, and you're a mentor to an early career attorney at your firm or even outside of your firm, list that as one of your extracurricular activities because it shows that you're involved in something outside of practicing law. And it may be that one thing that that journalist looks at and recognizes as he or she is going through hundreds of nominations. They may recognize that you serve on the board of an animal organization, and that's enough in that moment, having had a glass of Chardonnay, to put your nomination in that short stack that eventually gets the nod. Okay, let's move on from here.
Jonathan, we
It's,
do have a question
yeah, go
on
ahead,
chat.
Jose, please.
Chloe's asking, do you have any advice for newly bar attorneys December 2025 trying to establish herself?
Yes, from an award and recognition perspective, it's pretty challenging just because you probably haven't done a lot in order to report on. But as an early career attorney, as a new attorney, you can write articles, you can serve on committees, you can look for other ways of participating in the legal community in your backyard or in the business community. Join a networking group, get yourself out there so that other people get to meet you and can see the kind of value that you provide. Some of that is even possible on LinkedIn from the comfort of your home behind your keyboard, too. So there are definitely strategies really outside of the award and recognition. Once you have 4 or 5 years of practicing law under your belt, then I think you're most well positioned to be considered for some of these 30 under 30, 40 under 40 recognitions that are out there. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay, in some of these opportunities that come across your desk, there is an opportunity to participate in some kind of a sponsorship with the organization. And oftentimes my clients will ask me, Jonathan, do we have to take out a tribute ad? Do we have to participate in the marketing sponsorship of this award and recognition in order to receive the nod? In 99% of the legitimate awards and recognitions out there, you can receive the nod without paying the organization a dime. If you or your firm wants to further highlight the fact that you've been recognized with a tribute ad in the publication, by all means, folks, I think it's great to support the organization. A lot of, especially the newspapers, selling subscriptions is no longer a revenue source for them. So they've gotten very involved in these awards and recognitions. with the hopes of selling tribute ads to attorneys and to law firms, and that is their primary revenue source to keep the publication going. Do I think you need to buy an ad every single time? Not necessarily. But if the organization year after year continues to recognize you, it would be my recommendation that every once in a while you throw them a bone. It will only benefit you personally by further highlighting the award and recognition. And it keeps publications like the Daily Journal, which is the preeminent legal publication for us here in Los Angeles, as you all know, it keeps them in business. It keeps them reporting on our profession. And I think that's a critical element of the community in which we're involved. So, do you need to pay money for any of these? No, not necessarily. Every once in a while, is it appropriate? Absolutely. If someone presents you with an opportunity and immediately there is a price tag involved, I would be very scared of that. I would be very critical, very leery of what they're trying to do. Because as far as I know, most of the legitimate third-party directories that are out there will allow your representative matters, your representative experience to shine without paying them a dime. If you want to go further than that, by all means. But that is kind of a litmus test of, is this a legitimate opportunity or is someone just trying to hit me up and sell me an $850 plaque that I probably don't want on my wall, that I probably don't want to dust from time to time? If you're under the age of 40, the thought of putting a plaque on the wall is probably scary to you. If you're over the age of 40, you may be in that bucket where you're like, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. But if that is the case right out of the gate, in my opinion, you can ignore most of those opportunities that come across your way. Again, any questions about whether or not you should participate on the pay to play, please feel free to reach out to me. You can throw questions in the Q&A and we'll try to get to them today. We've got another question here from Georgianne. She says, what are your recommendations for in-house counsel who do not seek any client outside of their corporation? My recommendation is it still builds your credibility. It still builds your resume. You may be in-house today, Georgianne, but you never know. The weather could change and you could find yourself practicing outside of a company or a business back at a law firm. And I want to make sure that you've always positioned yourself for whatever opportunity may present itself. Remember that even for your own ego, if you don't need that nod, again, it's great visibility for you. It's great visibility for your organization. It keeps both of you in the mainstream of business conversation within your community. And I always think that visibility is very important. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay, let's now move into some of these specific opportunities so that you have a better understanding of what each of these are and what's the criteria to receive the nod. Here we go. The first one that I want to mention is Chambers and Partners. Chambers is probably the premier third-party directory that in-house counsel refers to when looking to hire outside counsel. It's an organization out of the UK. Up until recently, AmLaw 100, AmLaw 150 firms, let's call it, the 150, the 100, are the ones that would generally participate in Chambers and Partners. It's a very long and arduous process of nominating yourself. And so I've put a couple things here. Number one, Chambers focuses its reporting on lawyers themselves. So if you want to be listed by Chambers, you will fill out a nomination, and part of your nomination is listing the names and contact information of other lawyers who are your competitors. And as part of Chambers research, primary research, they will reach out to others in your circle that may have an opinion about you. Are you legitimate? Are you easy to deal with? Are you a great opposing counsel? Are you great on the other side of that transaction? Do you know what you're doing or don't you? Chambers has hundreds of research assistants on the payroll, folks, that once you submit your nomination, they go to town on verifying the information, and they verify some of it by calling other people in your circle to see if they know you, if they've worked with you, and what their feedback on you is. So if there's not a better reason to play nice in the sandbox, you want to make sure that if Chambers ever asks any of your competition about you, that your competition has nice things to say. The other thing is they'll look at client references. As part of the nomination process, you can submit up to a certain number of clients that you've represented. You provide their contact information, and a research assistant from Chambers and Partners will reach out to them in an email and schedule a phone call to talk with your client. If you end up submitting for Chambers and you list a specific client as part of your references, by the way, the Brits call them referees. They don't call them references, but it's the same thing. If you list a client, make sure you tell your client ahead of time, hey, I'm being considered for this third party ranking, and you may receive a call or you may receive an email. I would appreciate if you would take that call or if you would respond to the email. I'm not going to tell you what to say, but I would appreciate if you would respond when you get that correspondence. So give your clients a heads up so that they don't think it's spam when it comes across their inbox. And then finally, we talked about your competition getting a say in whether or not Chambers should list you. I was just speaking with a client earlier today. He was interested in his practice area perhaps being listed by Chambers and Partners. And I mentioned to him that it's not an easy process. The first nomination can take up to 40 hours to fill out, to gather all of your experience, all of your references, and putting them all nicely together in the Chambers packet for the research arm of Chambers to look at can be very time intensive. It may take 2 or 3 years of you submitting your information or your practice group's information before you get the nod. And just understand, that's how the process works. If you submit one time and you don't get chosen, please do not beat up your in-house marketing folks because you thought they didn't do something right to position you. That's just how it is with Chambers. It's highly, highly credible. And if you feel like you want that national or even sometimes an international presence, or you want that national visibility, then I would strongly consider that you look into a Chambers and Partners nomination. Chambers has also recently done what they call the Chambers California Spotlight, which is targeting firms that are smaller than the AmLaw 200, so that again, we level the playing field so that those attorneys that are doing great work on behalf of clients at either boutique or mid-sized firms can also get some of the recognition that the normal main list of Chambers provides. Okay, the next one that I want to talk about is the Legal 500. And interestingly enough, what Legal 500 asks you to submit is so similar to what Chambers asks you to submit that you can actually upload your Chambers submission on the Legal 500 website, and the Legal 500 website will accept your Chambers nomination into their database. It's crazy. But that just goes to show you, once you're able to position the work that you do, it's so able to be repurposed from one recognition to the other that I know it feels like a lot of energy to get the first one started. But once you have that template of what you've accomplished on behalf of clients, it's super easy to resubmit, and the Legal 500 makes it even easier. As Chambers is lawyer focused, the Legal 500 is client focused. So part of your nomination for Legal 500 is they will reach out to your clients and they'll want to hear what it's like working with you. They want the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what your client says about you is largely what will determine whether or not you get listed in the Legal 500. The other thing to mention is competitor interviews are also very popular for the Legal 500. So playing nice in the legal profession sandbox, folks, I cannot say enough good things about. If you end up not nominating yourself, but you get a call from a Chambers or a Legal 500 for someone else who's been nominated, obviously I want you to be honest with the interviewer as to your experience with the person. If you have something negative to say, or that you think by speaking ill of that competitor, it will make you look better in the process and you may be considered over your competitor, that will backfire on you very quickly. So it's okay to be critical, but please make sure your comments are appropriate and you're not just sitting there slugging mud against someone that you see as a competitor. We're all in the same profession and we're all trying to do good work on behalf of clients. The Legal 500 has also recently launched what they call the Legal 500 Elite. And again, that's for firms, including solos and boutiques, that are smaller than the AmLaw 200, so that you can also get some of this nationwide love. Okay, next one that I want to go over is benchmark litigation. Benchmark litigation recognitions are purely litigation in focused. If you're a transactional attorney, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do for you. The benchmark litigation credential is for our litigators and our trial attorneys out there. And it's solely peer reviewed. They want to hear from other people who swim in the same circles that you do what it's like to work with you. And if you're super difficult, you're probably not going to get the designation. If you're competent and it's a pleasure to work with you, even on the other side of a matter, and that kind of information gets communicated to the research team at Benchmark Litigation, then your chances of getting listed are very, very good. The next one that I want to talk about is super lawyers. And I know for some unknown reason, this one is way more controversial than it needs to be. Some of us feel like super lawyers is super credible. Others, we roll our eyes to the left about super lawyers. I think super lawyers is great. Again, we are managing the perception of someone sitting in their living room on a Sunday morning with a cup of coffee as they open up Los Angeles Magazine and there's the super lawyers insert. If you're there, it reaffirms that you're super. If you're not there, it could potentially send up a red flag in the mind of whoever's reading it. And we don't want that from a client development perspective. Super lawyers, if to get the super lawyers designation, you have to be practicing for more than 5 years. Under 5 years, you can be considered for what is called super lawyers rising stars. That's one of these opportunities for early career professionals to get a nod. For super lawyers, you probably already have a profile, whether you created it or not. If you go to my.superlawyers.com and search for your name, most of you will have a super lawyers profile. What you may not have done is kept it up to date. If you want to be considered for super lawyers every single year, folks, you have to update your profile on the super lawyers website, and you have to verify that the information super lawyers has for you is correct. I will every single year remind my clients, hey, don't forget to go and verify your data. Here are the steps. And then 6 months later, when someone is not chosen, I get that nasty email saying, I am so super. How do super lawyers not realize just how super I am? And my first question back to my client is, did you verify your data? And their response is generally, what do you mean? And here we go, folks. So again, there's only so much that consultants like me or your in-house marketing professionals can do. Your information has to be verified every single year to get put on the super lawyers ballot to continue to be listed year after year. If you've been listed 1 year and you think that it's just an automatic now moving forward, you're going to find that there's future years where you don't get listed. And again, you're going to be upset that somehow super lawyers doesn't think you're very super anymore. And you're going to go looking for someone to share that critique with. The other thing that Super Lawyers allows you to do is to nominate other lawyers within your organization and outside of your organization who you think should also be seriously considered. The more you nominate, the better your chances are of being considered yourself as a super lawyer. I'm not exactly sure how the algorithm for super lawyers works, but what I do know is the more you will complete your super lawyer's profile, including the nomination of colleagues inside your firm, colleagues outside of the firm in the legal profession, the third seven there represents those super lawyers, rising stars that I referenced a little bit earlier. If there's an early career attorney that you're really impressed with, I don't care if they're at your firm or they're outside of your firm, maybe you serve on a nonprofit commission with them, give them a nod, submit their name. That will put them on the ballot for other super lawyers to vote on. And the chances that you will get the nod are way better the more you interact with the super lawyers website. And again, you got to verify your data every year. Okay. Super Lawyers is one of those organizations that'll reach out and either want you to buy advertising in the publication or an online profile. And it's really a case by case basis, folks, what your client development strategy happens to be. Sometimes it makes total sense, sometimes it doesn't. But this is an opportunity where having another person, another consultant, or someone who's familiar with the super lawyer's process to brainstorm and consult can be really important to know whether that kind of an opportunity is right for you or not. Okay, Law 360. Law 360 will produce probably a dozen to 15 different award recognition opportunities throughout the course of the year. One of the things I love about Law 360 is the national visibility that it brings. If you get nominated for a Law 360 recognition, you are being compared to your colleagues and peers across the nation, not just in your town. And whatever your nomination is, whatever that submission is that you send in, Law 360 has 3 individual editors that will review each nomination so that whatever list that gets produced at the end of the exercise is really has some solid folks that deserve to be there. Law 360 is not one of those that can be all show and no go and expect to get the nod. You really have to put your best foot forward for any of the rankings that Law 360 comes out with so that you're seriously considered. They love firms of all sizes. You can be a solo practitioner and go neck to neck with an AmLaw 50 partner. And what they're really looking at is those representative matters. What's the value that you've created for clients? And that's what's going to speak the loudest. And then finally, for any of these, with one exception that I'll talk about here in a second, do not submit any confidential information. If you don't have the client's permission to include it in your nomination, my recommendation would be to not include it. If you can describe it, great. Even if your information is public, but you know the client would be ticked off by you mentioning it, it's not worth losing a client over one of these awards and recognitions, folks. So again, that's where it's helpful, I think, to have another person you can brainstorm with to say, hey, here's a list of my rep matters. Here's what I think I can include. Would you please put a second set of eyes to it to make sure that I'm not missing something, I'm not oversharing, I'm not undersharing. Okay. The next one is Best Lawyers. Best Lawyers is peer reviewed. Best Lawyers, what you'll notice is generally skewed toward more senior practitioners because you have to be practicing law for a certain number of years before Best Lawyers will even consider you. If you're under that year threshold, then you can be considered for what Best Lawyers calls Best Lawyers Ones to Watch. And that's the equivalent of the Super Lawyers Rising Stars. So you don't have to be super senior to have that Best Lawyers designation altogether, but there are a couple categories that Best Lawyers provides. Best lawyers will also rank your firm as an organization. So you as a practicing attorney could be a best lawyers in America. If you're under a certain age group, you could be a best lawyers ones to watch. And your firm collectively could be considered a best law firm. So there's lots of opportunities to interact with best lawyers. It's also highly, highly, highly credible. If you get that best lawyers designation, then it's definitely something that you want to promote. The 10-year practice is the difference between best lawyers in America and best lawyers ones to watch. And we mentioned that your firm can be listed as well. There's also a variety of others: Law Dragon, National Law Journal, The Recorder, The Daily Journal, Business Journal, LA Times. You will see opportunities from all of these organizations come across your desk. And in many cases, you should absolutely participate. To the extent that you're eligible for any of the opportunities that are presented by these media outlets, it would be my recommendation that you participate. I understand you don't need it for your ego, but again, credibility, visibility, an opportunity to keep you and your name front and center in the business community, in my opinion, is absolutely credible. As we start to close up our conversation today, I've got a couple final thoughts. In my mind, rankings are only important if you can use them to grow your practice. And oftentimes, lawyers will create a nomination, they'll submit their nomination, they'll get the nod as a best lawyers in America or a super lawyers or a law dragon this or a daily journal that, and then they do nothing with it. Or we'll be on LinkedIn and we'll see a lawyer that says, I'm so deeply humbled. I'm so deeply honored. This kind of a recognition couldn't be any better. It's beyond my wildest imagination that I would get it. Okay, okay, okay. We get the humble brag. We can do a better job than that, folks. But once you receive a recognition, I want you to do something with it from a client development perspective. And here's specifically how I think you can use it. Use the news to re-engage dormant clients. If there's someone that you used to represent, but you haven't done anything with them for 2 or 3 years, the fact that a third party has recognized you for something, in my opinion, is something worthy to send that dormant client to say, hey, Jimmy, hope you're doing well. Not sure if you saw the news or not. My firm was just listed as a best law firm by Best Lawyers in America. I thought you'd like a copy of the news. Hope you and the family are well. That's all you have to say, folks, to re-engage with a dormant client. It's not boasting. It's not being salesy. Most human beings like to celebrate each other's successes. And if it's something important enough to you and the person that you're emailing cares anything about their relationship with you, they're also going to be happy for you. But don't think you can just throw the credential on your website bio and there's going to be a tidal wave of people in your network that are going to see it. You have to do something with the news. Re-engaging dormant clients is a great way of using these award and recognitions. Another way is with referral sources. Referral sources have a million attorneys in their network that they can refer to. Why would they refer to you over somebody else? Give them a reason that they can say to their client, hey, I know you have this issue. I want to introduce you to this attorney. Oh, and by the way, Super Lawyers just recognized them as one of the top land use lawyers in Los Angeles. That's why I think you should take a call with them. Give your referral sources some meat to brag about you with to those in their networks so that it makes sense to have some kind of an introduction. You may even be working on some prospects and you need a good reason to ping them. In anticipation of our presentation today, I've got a short list of prospective law firms that I am currently prospecting, and I sent all of their managing partners a note saying, hey, the Beverly Hills Bar Association is hosting this program later this week. Perhaps it's something that you or members of your firm would be interested in. Hope you're well. I'm not sure whether they made the call or not, but from a client development perspective, it really doesn't matter. I'm looking for a legitimate reason 6 to 8 times a year to get in front of my best prospects. Not in a salesy way, not in a creepy way, but in a very conversational, human way to remind them that I'm alive and I exist, and I would love nothing more than to be able to represent them. And you can do the same thing. You might also include some of these awards and recognitions if you do proposals for new work or you respond to RFPs. Oftentimes, those organizations will want to know if you or your firm has received any kind of award and recognition. And we want you to be able to have something that you can proudly tout that, again, is a distinguisher between you and all the other RFP responses that that organization is going to receive to handle their outside legal. And so again, if you use some of these third-party rankings as an item that distinguishes you from the masses, then that may be what puts you over the finish line above and beyond your competition. Obviously, these third-party rankings can and should be included in your marketing materials for the chambers and the best lawyers and the legal 500. You may even consider including their badges or their logos in your email signature so that everyone that gets correspondence from you is reminded that you are chambers ranked or legal 500 ranked. That could also be something that is a nice little reminder from time to time. The other thing that you can do in all of these opportunities, folks, is let's say, for example, that you were nominated for an award and recognition and you did not get the nod. You're probably still going to see the list of attorneys that did receive the recognition. Instead of taking the perspective that you're better than they are and how the heck did they get chosen over you, I think it would be lovely if you took a subset of the list and you sent them a personal email or a handwritten note that said, "Hey, Jerry, just saw that you were recognized by super lawyers. Congratulations, keep up the good work." Or, "Sally, just saw that you were chambers ranked and your firm was chambers ranked. I know that's not easy. I went through the Beverly Hills Bar Association presentation. I understand what it takes to get those kinds of rankings. And I want you to know that I'm super proud of what you guys are doing." Small communications like that, folks, can go a really long way. And in my opinion, we're all in this together. And so to the extent that we can help one another out to garner those kinds of awards and recognitions that demonstrate the great work that we're doing on behalf of our clients, my recommendation is that you participate. All right, I'll open it up to any additional questions that you may have before we adjourn. I see that there's one in the chat. It says, if and when successful in receiving recognitions, tips on how to publicize tastefully. I think I probably just did that. That's probably the tip of the iceberg. There are lots of other ways that are specific to you, specific to your firm, specific to your practice that might also make sense. And I would recommend considering those on a case-by-case basis. There's one last question I think we have time for. Can you touch a bit more on how or where specifically to publicize case results? What I think you're talking about, Chloe, is once you've had a successful matter with a client, take whatever it is that you did, write a 1 or 2 sentence description of what you accomplished. Again, it needs to be client facing. I would throw it up on your website page for your law firm website bio. I would add it to your LinkedIn under the experience section of your current law firm. It may be something that your firm wants to write up in an announcement format or a press release format. If you use a wire service, you can take that announcement throw it over a wire service, and that guarantees that all of the major search engines like Google and Bing um, also receive that news and will index the news so that when someone is doing due diligence on you because they're considering hiring you, that information will readily come up on the first page of the search results. And again, you've got a third party that is singing your praises. And the more you do that, the more you wow prospects and referral sources that you are, in fact, a go to person for whatever area of law is that you practice. I hope that answered your question. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Jose.
You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.